And hello, Hearts of Oak. Thanks so much for joining us once again on another news review with a guest that you will know well from her many escapades, I think, with Urban Scoop and maybe elsewhere, and that is Vicky Richter. Vicky, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me on the show. It's a great pleasure. Thank you.
Great to have you and loved your reporting all over many different places. And it's always good to talk to someone who stands shoulder to shoulder with Tommy and what Tommy does and the common sense he brings. But you got a very mixed background. I mean, and people can follow you there. There is your handle, your ex handle. But yeah, distinguished German special ops. Then you transitioned really into journalism, and recently, maybe I don't know how long we've been with Urban Scoop, 4 or 5 months, maybe or longer.
Officially, I guess since November last year.
Okay, so yeah, nearly coming up to 6 months,
Yeah.
and you've
The first
managed to
episode.
y- you've survived the chaos of Tommy. So well done on that. Well done. But there's so much I want to get into, and all these are stories that you've highlighted or talked about on your news feed. And let's go south of the US border for the first story. And it is this looking at Brazil. And I noticed the Guardian didn't really want to get the best picture of Bolsonaro because they hate Bolsonaro. But this is Bolsonaro must stand trial over alleged coup attempt, Brazil's top court rules. And this was just a day or two ago. Supreme Court judges decide former president should face criminal prosecution alongside 7 close allies. And they're talking about that he could actually face up to 40 years in jail. Now, you've followed the situation there in Brazil. Give us your thoughts on Bolsonaro and what's happening with him.
So Bolsonaro's story is kind of very similar to Trump with the lawfare. It's just more aggressive, and he really has to fear to go in jail. Like with all those attempts for suing him, they try to keep him away from the election next year. And we have to think about what was actually this coup état situation. That was January 8, 2022, after the election, which was won by Lula. And like we had the same situation in the US with Biden and Trump, there are some questionings about the integrity of this election. So there were machines used, like the Dominion machines, where we already had some questionable problems in the US. So there were some people in Brazil, and me being in Brazil now 3 times and seeing how many people are actually supporters of Jair Bolsonaro, he should have won. So there is no way that Lula could have been the winner. So on January 8th, we had the same situation like January 6th. Peaceful Brazilian patriots went to Brasilia, wanted to make their voice heard, and Alexandre de Moraes is the Supreme Court judge who kind of is a dictator in Brazil. So he writes his own rules. He changes law. He behaves unlawful. He even deleted X for several months from Brazil. Like there were no access from Brazilians in Brazil to go on X. So if they used a VPN, they had to pay $8,000 per day. So you see this total dictatorship regime happening in Brazil, and then you have the Bolsonaro group, the opponents, the conservatives, who say no, we don't want that. We want freedom of speech, and Bolsonaro is still a big number in Brazil. So what is the best thing to do to not get him elected? Sue him, smear his name, try to get him in jail so he's not allowed to run for the presidency. And then in Brazil, there is not yet a person who could replace him. There are some very important and great freedom fighters under the deputies in Brasilia, but one of them, Nicolas Ferreira, he's still too young to run. And then the other ones are, no, we don't want to run. before Bolsonaro. It's his term. He has to run because he is our leader, and this is what Brazil wants. This is what the Brazilian people want. So you see, it's totally lawfare. It's crazy what's going on. The accusations of this whole trial is insane. Even de Moraes um, uses excuses. Whereas, oh, we can't really prove that, but this is what's happening. So if you can't prove it, don't bring it up for court. Would you think? But like I said, Brazil is a different scenario, and they are creating their own rules right now. That's why it's very sad, and I really hope that former President Bolsonaro doesn't have to go to jail.
Yeah, and I think the reason why the focus is on this is because of the size of Brazil. It's huge country, and it calls the shots in Latin America and South America. And despite the fact that Jair Milei is now leading Argentina, which is wonderful, Argentina is a small part player in relation to Brazil. So I think that's why the interest is really on Brazil, because it is a powerful country in South America.
Yeah, and then you have to think who are the ties to. Like Lula was a convicted felon. He was in jail. They brought him out of jail. When you look into his friends who he's spending time with, they are really big drug dealers who are on FBI wanted lists, and he's hanging around with them. And he has very close ties to China, and he's in the BRICS. So, and he's a full percent communist socialist. Like, this is not the kind of politics and politician you actually want to have in a running country, because we all saw what happens with the Soviet Union. We all saw what is happening in Cuba. We don't want a communistic, socialistic Brazil, because, like you said, Brazil is a very, very important ally in Latin America. And with having Bukele and Milei, we have a good chance to create this Western dream in Latin America. So there is chance of really good Western values. But right now with Lula and de Moraes, it's kind of like a nightmare when you leave Brazil, when you leave Argentina and go to Brazil. Even a lot of people exiled now in Argentina who are persecuted because of this coup d'état on the January 8th. And Argentina says, no, we're not gonna send those back. But it's still like day and night what's happening in Argentina and Brazil. And I really hope that with all the protests which are going on right now in Brazil, we just had one in March, where the people stand up and make a sign and make people aware in the world. Because what you see in Brazil is a playbook of from communistic, globalistic dictatorship, and you can just use this playbook and rewrite it a little bit and put it into UK or put it on Germany or the European Union. So we should really have a close look to Brazil, what's happening right there, even if you're not totally infected by it right now.
No, I agree. And you mentioned Lula's background, his unsavory background, and that leads us on to this story, which is a good news story. Alleged MS-13 leader arrested in Virginia as part of Trump crackdown on gangs, and this is from the Guardian in the UK. U.S. attorney lauded arrest of Salvadorian man 24 accused of leading the street gang on the East Coast. And President Trump has really made a big thing of going after these gangs that have been allowed to operate with impunity in America, in terms of violence, in terms of the drugs trade, people trafficking, all of that. And this is a wonderful story, and really is part of the beginning of the pushback by Trump on these cartels and gangs.
Yeah, and like you see, we this is what America was waiting for since by like since Trump left office 2016. Like, we had this huge increase of border crossings under Biden. Like, I was on my own 29 times at the border, Mexico, in Arizona and Texas, and I saw human trafficking and child trafficking, and also I was on a ride along with sheriffs, and we captured fentanyl drug dealers. They had the whole tires full with fentanyl, and when you see how less fentanyl you need to kill a whole city, it's not just marijuana; it's a poison. And I think under Biden, they had more interest in persecuting their own people than actually the criminals who are coming into their country, which were unvetted in thousands of numbers. Like there was on one border crossing 8,000 people at one night. That was one crossing, and you have maybe 25 in one state. So you have to think about the number which are actually crossing per day. And now they stopped it since Trump is back in office, having Tom Homan as a border czar. They decreased it over 95%. Now they have border crossing from 300 people a day. And we have those successful arrests with, for example, the MF13 kingpin. And these are the things what people wants to see in America. This is like literally the proof border safety is an important thing to keep the people safe in America. Because I don't know if people in the UK saw a lot about those murders, what happened in the US with those gang members, or how they captured totally house buildings, and there were nobody was able to go in those houses anymore because they were captured by the cartels. So America should have had this for years long before Trump got in office, but this shows us how powerful America can be if they want to be. And this should give every other country, especially I'm speaking now for the European countries, if you want to, you can make your border safe. It's not about if we can, it's just about if you want.
Oh, and we'll touch on immigration. Of course, that individual was arrested in North Virginia, just on the edge of DC, and that should shock any
Yeah.
American that actually this person could operate just on the edge of the Capitol, just well, I guess 30, 45 minutes drive from the Capitol. So it's a huge victory. There's something else that Trump's talked about, and that is election reform. And I'm really glad, because I was concerned this would drop down the agenda. And one of the posts you did was of President Trump taking question from a reporter on this. So let me just play this 1 minute clip from President Trump.
And it's so easy to do it. And we should go to paper ballots. We should go to one-day voting. We should go to voter ID. And just one other thing, proof of a thing called citizenship in the United States. Wouldn't that be nice? How simple does that sound? Proof of citizenship, voter ID, one-day voting, and paper ballots. You know, paper ballots are very secure. They have watermark paper. It's very intricate stuff. It's very technologically advanced, even though it's paper. And you'd have no trouble. You wouldn't have dishonest elections, and you'd have them all done by 10 o'clock in the evening. You know, France went to that, and not that I want to copy anybody, but many others have also. And they had 38 million votes, and it was all done at 10 o'clock. They had a winner, they had a loser. That was it. Nobody was complaining. And they had it backed up with paper. And it's so easy to do. The other thing, you'd save about, this would cost you about 8% of what the machines cost. So the paper would be much less expensive. So if you're looking to save some money, that's a good way to save it. So it's a shame that we've gone through it. We've gone through a bad election, really bad election. The election was so bad. And think of it. You wouldn't have had the October 7th disaster with it.
I mean, it's one, because it's very simple. In Europe, we generally have one of these and a
Yeah.
bit of paper,
Yeah.
and you put it in, and you get the results by the end of the day. And America is so different. But what are your thoughts? Because as I said before, I'm delighted that President Trump was talking about this, because I was worried it slipped down the agenda.
Now, I think that was one of the biggest points in his agenda to get elected, because there are so many groups and think tanks about how to get the election safe and accurate. And then everyone said, why don't we just ask for ID? And the most excuse for America was till now to have no ID. It's racist towards the black community. Why is it like racist to ask for an ID? Like, you ask for an ID if you want to go for a drink in America. Nobody is complaining about that. So it should not be a big problem to be asked for an ID if you make a very important decision which impacts the whole country. So those are like those excuses from the Democrats and from the left wing side. Oh, that this is against our minorities. They don't like that. That's racist. And people stop listening to it. And now they are saying, hey, we are happy to have Trump here, but now we need to make the election safe so we don't have that problem in future. And how to make it safe is get rid of the machines, which is very easy because machines can get hacked. And we had the best example with the Dominion machines. They got hacked. They had a threshold of if they have 30% or 60% Trump votes, then they suddenly change a vote into Biden. That was they even had an algorithm in the hardware on the board. So that's election interference, and that should be investigated. I don't know if they're gonna ever investigate it because Dominion tried to sue OAN or something for saying that. So, but we could have or they could have done it very easily, going back to paper ballots. It's not that a problem. And then the problem with the in America, you have early voting, and then you have paper ballots where you can send in paper ballots. Like you can do the brief, like the post voting. You send a letter and then they send it. And then we had like those videos from Arizona where a person put ballots into the mailbox.
Yep, drop boxes.
Drop boxes, like, this is insane. And when you then look into the data, who else voted? There were people dead since 20 years and they voted. Like, they voted out of the grave. And you can really just stop that with paper ballots. You have to check in with your ID. You have to make sure or prove that you are an American citizen, which is very important because the Democrats try to get all those illegals in to make them vote for Democrats because they are thankful for being in the country. But afterwards, they voted Democrat. They won't vote Democrat again because they see what kind of horrible policies the Democrats are making, because they don't want to live under communistic and very crazy policies. They're happy to leave their country for a better life. So they will never vote again Democrats. So they the Democrats have to bring more and more people in to get the first time voting for the Democrats. So, and if you prove your citizenship with your ID, they can't because they're illegal, so they don't have a proof. So this is a very easy way to make elections very safe. And it's not like that this is a new thing. Like, we do this in Germany. You do this probably in Britain. Like, it's not that Trump has to be a pioneer in that or something. Like, it's already done and proved, like he said, as helpful. And maybe that's a thing what the Americans take over from Europe. So sometimes we do good stuff.
It's true. I hope they take it. And I know in the UK there's a rush to get the votes counted in your area,
Yeah.
where in America there seems to be a rush to be last. If you're Arizona or something, then you're weeks ahead. And for
They
the
even say
UK,
that.
yeah,
Sorry for interrupting you, but they even say that. So I was in Philadelphia at the voting night. So I was at the Kamala Harris election party and saw how the mood was dropping with every counting of the states. So the funny thing was, like, even some states already said before they even closed their voting offices, we will delay our counting. Like, how is this constitutional? You should stop at a specific time in your time zone, and then you have to count them. It's not like that you should take 7 days or something, because with those days, people can fake the election, because then people can just bring in votes, change votes, and all that stuff. So it's easy. Do it one day, one closing time. Okay, it's a little bit difficult with the different time zones in America, but still, you can say, okay, we're going to close at 8 Eastern, and then 8 Central, 8 Mountain, and then 8 Pacific time. So it's doable, but like, again, with closing the borders, it's a question of, do you want that? And like we see now under Trump, they want it. I hope they can get it approved in this time he's in office, in those 4 years. And I hope the next president won't change it again, because that's the problem with America. With America is that every time when another president comes in, he gets the red pen and just deletes all the good decisions from the other one, or tries to change something.
Well, as Bannon says, 50 years of MAGA. Let's see if that's possible.
Yep.
But let's go to UK story, something very different. The head of the UK in some shape or form, King Charles, and here he is talking about Islam. I want to get your thoughts on this. So here is the King of the UK, King Charles.
As the Quran says, God does not burden any soul with more than it can bear. We hope that you have a blessed and fulfilling Ramadan. Peace be upon you all. Ramadan Mubarak. As Muslims across the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth observe the beginning of the holiest of months in the Islamic calendar, the month of Ramadan, I just wanted to convey my heartfelt best wishes to you all, and to tell you just how much my wife and I are thinking of you at this special time of year, as this would have been a joyous time. Mosques would be filling with life, Muslim families would be coming together to share food and prayers, and many of them would be inviting their neighbors and friends of all faiths and none to join them. My wife and I can only offer you all our kindest and most special wishes, and stress just how greatly the contribution of Muslims to the life of the United Kingdom is appreciated. And
sorry, that's all I can bear of King Charles. That'll we'll cut off his last 30 seconds. But tell me, because again in the UK you've got I think a void of national identity, the nation no longer knowing what it is, and a lot of that because of the collapse of Christianity, and into that has come Islam. But it's not really the place of the king. And you pointed out he is defender of the faith, and yet he is here celebrating Islam, which is something very different. So what were your concerns when you saw that?
So I thought His Majesty behaved very odd, to point it in a nice way, because he's still the king. So try to try to sound respectful. Like when, like in Germany, we have Christianity, we have Catholicism and Lutheran, and we don't have the Church of England. But you have the Church of England, where the king is the head of the Church of England, and till I know, it didn't change. I think it's a Christian behavioral religion. So I think it's okay as the king to say, "Hey, I appreciate the Muslim citizens of our of the United Kingdom, and I wish them a happy and I don't know if you can say nice Ramadan or something, but to point it out." But he does too much. Like, he sounds like one of them. Like, if I wouldn't have known that he is the head of the Church of England, you could think that he's a Muslim. Like, and the thing is, the UK is still a Christian country. It's still based and built on a Christian values. And with having these problems right now with some of the groups of the Muslim religion, like we have this Pakistani raping gangs, we have the mass immigration problem, we have people who run into dancing classes and stab people, and it comes out that they are more interested in Taliban manifestos than in core studies, like what the media tried to make him look like. He's a nice little core singer. So there are some problems in the UK, and then you have London, where it says, "Oh, we love multiculturalism. This is how our country got powerful." No, it's not. Your country got powerful because you had a very strong navy and you had a very strong connection to Christianity. Like, this is kind of like black is now white and white is black. Like, I understand that the king has to make everyone happy in his country, but it's not only the minority who has to be happy. The main people are still Christians and British and like native British, and they felt alone. They felt left alone. Like when I was in London, when you go to the tourist places, everything is fine, and you think, oh yeah, that's London. That's how I like it. Yeah, but that's how they want to let it look. But if you go to like Whitechapel, what I did because I wanted to see how it actually looks like, it only took me 10 minutes, and then I was surrounded by 6 men who wanted to convert me to Islam.
Yeah.
Like, this is not how the British capital should looks like. Like, it looks like Pakistan, or it looks like Baghdad or something. Like, this is not what people want to have when they come to Britain. And I think multiculturalism is nice, but it should be rediscussed at the point when the host gets lesser and lesser and has less powers than the guests. And this is what's happening right now in Britain, especially when you see into the in the lawfare what's running right now against white British men. Like, they have this new law that people with a minority background, if they are religious or women or transgender, they have to face lesser persecution and lesser time in jail than a white British man. And this
So
is
let me bring up that story and move on to that. And there were two things. One is a few days ago, and this came from 2 weeks ago, and it was Robert Jenrick talking, who possibly will be the future leader of the Conservative Party. Two-tier Justice Kwango letting hundreds of illegal migrants dodge deportation and see sentencing guidelines. And then just today, we're recording this Friday afternoon, just before we recorded, this story came out. Two-tier Justice Roy Sentencing Council rejects minister's call for guidance rethink. And it's so strange. You've got the government who are saying, and they're only saying this is wrong because it was pointed out to them. They seem to be happy to let it go through. And now suddenly they're saying, well, you shouldn't legally take into account anything except someone has committed a crime or not. That should be it. So there are massive concerns how this will be used, maybe for Islamic communities. When you look at grooming gangs and how that's happened, does this mean there'll be a lesser sentence? But this is huge, and I haven't seen anything this visible in terms of showing that we do have a two-tier legal system.
Yeah, and then the thing is, like, the law should be blind. Like, when you see statues of Justitia, which is the goddess or the guidance of the law, she is blind and she holds a wage and she holds a sword. Like, but she's blind, so that means that she is not visibly taking care how the guy who is in a court right now and the judge has to rule about his faith. She should not care about his lookings and about his background in pretending of is he a member of a minority. And this is what is wrong right now, because you're just begging and kneeing for minorities in your country, which is insane. Like, we have the same things going on in Germany and in France. Like, this is a whole European problem. And we should start actually questioning what is the intention behind that. And now you can call me a conspiracy theorist or a woke right person, but at one point we can have, we should be allowed to ask the question: what is the problem for being white in a country like Britain, Germany? And I'm sorry, but our heritage is Germanic and Celtic, and they are freaking white. Like, and you can have AI making pictures of a black Viking. Okay, that's totally nonsense. And this is what the whole agenda wants us believe, that this is okay. No, it's not. I don't have to accept that people are saying white men in Britain has to have a harder sentence because they are white. No, that's not right. We should go back to common sense. And my question really is right now, how much did the politicians in the UK and all over Europe sold their soul to globalism and all those multiculturalism agendas? Like, they are actually working for us. Like, they are servants for us. Like, it's not that we have to serve them. And right now they try to keep us silent with all those policies and new laws, and you get in jail because you're gonna post a meme which is herdy speech. Like, what nonsense. And I really hate that day when the progressive politicians started talking about correctness.
Yeah,
What's the
political
word?
correctness.
Yeah, political correctness. Like, this was the opening gate or the door opener for censorship, political correctness. Like, who are you to define that? Like, that's crazy. And with all this blah blah, for me, it's like, I don't know what to say. It's it's getting worse and crazier every day in your country. And like, having then Nigel Farage saying, "Yeah, we have to be a little bit lesser with deportings." No, you don't. At one point, like today, I saw an article that your water is so dirty because of 400 years of poop, because there are too many people in your country. Yeah, like, okay, it sounds weird and stupid, but this is a problem. Like, your waters were very clean, and now you don't really know, can you drink it? Do you get any diseases from it? And it's only because you just let people in. It's not like that they're stopping. And when you are running for conservative values and saying, yeah, we want to stop that, then you have to say how it is. No one is coming to our country unvetted and only on the legal way. Get your freaking ticket in the app at the airport. Apply for a visa. It's very easy. I have a visa now for the UK. You can do it on an app. It's very funny, very very fast. So it's not that hard. So do it the right way, and then apply if you want to stay there. Apply for a longer stay, but integrate. Like,
No, it is.
yeah,
And
integrate. That's the main point. Integrate. You want to live in a country, so you leave your country to live in another country, then have the gratefulness to integrate, and don't put your values upon the country you want to live in.
and integration has been the big issue.
Yeah.
I moved to there are two stories that fit with this on the immigration side. This is a curious story, I think, from Poland, and it's curious because Poland have traditionally had strong borders, certainly under the Law and Justice Party, and now you've got a different group. You've got Donald Tusk as the prime minister, who is very much part of the European Union dream. And here you have Poland suspends migrants' right to apply for asylum. Poland have temporarily suspended the right of migrants arriving in Poland via its border to Belarus to apply for asylum. And this is 60 days at a time. And this is really curious because obviously Poland is on the edge of Europe. But you've got someone who's been massively pro-immigration that's now discussing restrictions. So what are your thoughts? And then we'll move on to the next story, which is on the UK immigration. But I just thought this was a curious story of what's happening in Europe.
Yeah, so all the people on the conservative and immigration with common sense kind of people, we were very interested and proud of Poland, who had very strong borders and stuff, and didn't had this people coming in. We saw all those TikTok, Instagram videos where the army was blocking them from coming in, and then you had those angry immigrants trying to destroy the fences and get into Poland either way, but they couldn't. And they even said, if you do that, we're gonna shoot. And I don't say that this is a way to do it, but at one point, this is border protection. That's what I learned in the military too. So at one point that's your job, to protect the border, and now you have someone in office whose mindset it more into just let people in for asylum. Okay, but what is the threshold here? How many people you want to actually give the asylum part? Or what does it mean if a guy from Afghanistan, because they're all military-aged men who should actually be in their country fighting for their freedom? And I don't say anything against women and children and old people coming for and being on asylum, but the reality is, sadly, they're all fighting-aged men. So there is no real explanation for giving them asylum. When you give them asylum, what does this mean for them? Can they just bring all their 7 wives with them? Like, this is what we have right now in Germany. We are waiting right now from a plane from Afghanistan, where people get united with their families, and they have 3, 4, 5 wives with children and uncles and cousins, because they're all uncles and cousins, and they're all coming to our country where they get social benefits. It's not that they just live here and bring something into society. No, we have to take care of them. And I'm not working 45 hours or 55 hours a week, pay 60% of my income in taxes just to make the family from this person able to live here. Like that.
No, exactly. No, and here's a story that links in that from the UK. And this was yesterday. The asylum seeker towns where locals are too terrified to walk the streets. Residents in Britain's migrant hotspots say communities are being taken advantage of and left fearing for their safety. And this is in all different parts of the UK. They talk about Hartlepool up in the north, Swansea over in Wales, Coventry in the Midlands, and huge concerns. I think we've seen this we've seen it in East Germany, where the government have dumped people busloads. We obviously see the issues in Brussels, in Paris. And this is a story that's repeated across Europe. And it seems as though our politicians will not wake up and realize you cannot put people who have a very different thinking, a very different outlook, who treat women as they treat them in the Middle East. You cannot bring them and put them in the UK and expect everything to go well.
No, you can't. And I like your example with Eastern Germany. So in Eastern Germany, we have the problem with a lot of unemployment, and a lot of industry left Eastern Germany. So there was a huge increase of industry after the Germany got reunited, and because they put a lot of tax money in it and wanted to grow this area. But the truth is, right now, a lot of young people leaving this areas. Like, we have one city, Gera, where 85% are elderly people, or people who are going very soon to being pensioners. So all the young people are leaving because they don't have the jobs, and then or they don't find a job in Western Germany, so they stay there, and then they are unemployed. So they're already very angry about the situation. And then you have busloads of people coming into this little village. They get new housing, like they build up those nice houses, and they live there for free, and they get a new phone. They get minimum 500 euros per person, even more when you have children, and then even food stamps and food. And then when you see those unemployed people, they have to prove that they apply every week minimum for 10 jobs. They have to show what their whole family owns. So maybe your father or mother could help you with being unemployed. Like, it's very hard to be unemployed in Germany also. I'm not excusing people who just want to be unemployed because they don't want to work, but there's a process and what you have to go through to be able to receive unemployment money. So the social net. It's not that easy for a German citizen, but it's very easy for a person who is not German citizen, who comes from a country, and just be here. And the thing is, it's not, and we have rules in Europe. What happens with asylum? The rule is, and I don't know if it changed, but I haven't heard about it, is the first country you step in as an asylum seeker. This is the country where you apply for asylum. I'm so sorry that the first country is maybe Romania or Greek, and they don't really pay social, have a good social system, and they don't have a lot of money. They are poor. They're also poor. They don't give you a lot. So what does the asylum seeker does? He just wanders along through several countries, loses his passport, or pretends to be at 15 when he's actually 25, and says, "Oh, I can't have an X-ray on my arm because this is against my private rights." So we can't even prove that they're not teenagers or children, so they just can come in. So this is insane. And our countries, our politicians should actually stop that and think about, okay, for what do we have those rules when nobody is taking care of it or don't even want to know? And then we have politicians who say, we are a multicultural country. We are powerful with multicultural. No, we're freaking not. That is an experiment which failed very badly. And at one point, we have to stop it, or I have to sadly say J.D. Vance is right that Germany or Britain is killing itself with mass immigration.
Yeah, common sense statement from J.D. Vance that pissed off most of the politicians in Europe.
Yeah, but that's true. Truth hurts sometimes.
Absolutely true. There are three more stories. Let's see if we can just do 2 or 3 minutes on each of them. I think it's important to bring them in. And this is back to the US. Again, a common sense policy that President Trump has talked about. So the Representative Tommy Massey, who's become very well known and popular for speaking common sense, his bill mandates candidates to disclose dual citizenship. I didn't know this wasn't the case, but he introduced a bill on Wednesday requiring candidates running for federal office to disclose whether they possess dual citizenship and to what countries their dual citizenship is held. I mean, to me, it's common sense. I have a British passport and Irish passport, but to me, it should be absolutely normal for you to say if you have another passport, because that could suggest affiliation or leanings to a different country and not the US. But this seems to be absolutely common sense.
Yeah, that's the problem with the common sense. That's what we lost through the years and decades, I guess. And I met Thomas Massey on several occasions, and he's a very great man, and he's a libertarian. So he loves small government and freedom. And I think that's the right thing to do. So if you want to run for an office, you have to show the public what citizenship do you have. You have to have the American citizenship, that's true. But if you have like a citizenship with Pakistan, or you immigrated from Gaza or something,
Yeah.
this could ask some questions, because every time you applied for ESTA visa probably several times, they ask you, do you have affiliations to groups who are anti-American? And if you have a background from those countries, it should be normal to point that out. So yes, I have this background, but I'm totally for America and for its policies, and it should not be disrespectful for you. That should be actually the common sense situation what you do. And then you have those Democrat representatives in Congress and Senate. That's why Thomas Massey was very keen about it, to have those law implemented. You have those women who are wearing those scarves from Gaza and say Free Palestine and all that stuff. I totally get that you can say there is a Free Palestine, but at one point, are you supporting Hamas, or are you just pointing out that you are for a two-state solution? Because there are two different things. Because right now, everyone, when you say, I support Palestine and the people in Gaza, everyone's, oh, you are a Hamas supporter. It's not the truth. But right now we have this problem. So I think it's very clear and understandable that people who have dual citizenship want to run for office, to make sure to say that, and then to make also sure, is this country where you're originally coming from in your favor than the country you are running for office or you're in office for. And sadly, in my opinion, of those Democrat representatives, the country where they're coming from is probably a little bit more important than the US.
Yeah, I think we've seen that the case time and time again with some of those uh, political officials. Here's another crazy story. In the UK, it's a warning to what will happen to the US if you're not careful, to our many US viewers. But judge blocked pedophiles' deportation to Pakistan because he could be persecuted as an alcoholic. He was labeled a danger to the community for committing crimes, including sexually abusing a girl of 13 and assaulting emergency workers. But yet, he said he was an alcoholic and therefore couldn't be deported. Um, yeah, it seems our politicians are falling over themselves to look after those who are not British instead of those who are British. And the same for Europe. Those who are resident of the country seem to get second-class citizenship now, where others seem to get it. I don't know how he became an alcoholic, because I thought Muslims didn't drink alcohol, but maybe he gave in at some point. Who knows? Maybe he broke Ramadan having a drink.
Maybe, but the insanity here is like, the British judge said he can't get deported because he's too much afraid to get persecuted for alcohol. Like, if you go back, I don't know how big the persecution is for pedophiles in Pakistan, but I would be happy to be only persecuted for alcoholism when I raped a 14-year-old. To be honest, like,
That is a very fair point. Yes.
like this is a crazy statement to bring up in court after committing such a crime. Like, who are we protecting right now in this case? Like, this person should get deported and should get charged for raping a minor in its country where he came from, in Pakistan. And I probably think he's gonna get stoned or something. I don't know, but the persecution and the rulings and the punishment is much more harsher, probably in Middle Eastern countries than in Britain or in Europe. So just let them go home and get charged for the crimes what they committed in the other country, and not saying, "Oh, I'm an alcoholic." Oh, May, yeah, then.
But because the suggestion from him is that in a Muslim country, it's a harsher punishment for if you're drinking alcohol than if you rape a child. That's what it seemed now. That's a whole discussion point.
Yeah, but that's then the discussion point for the judge. Like, say,
Yep.
in the judge jumping into it. Oh, yeah, actually, you have a point. No, we don't have a point. So then, for God's sake, put him in jail and never let him out again. Like, I don't think the UK should pay for the jail time, but if he has a bigger problem for being alcoholic, okay, then charge him for alcoholic in Pakistan. I don't care. Just put him away, get him out of the country, because if you get him let free, that's a get out of the jail ticket. Don't you think he's gonna do it again? Like, it's not that this happens one time and then it's, oh yeah, sorry, I just raped a child. Ooh, like,
Yeah.
sorry for being that sarcastic, but this is a tendency. You can't change that tendency. And like we all know, they don't even care about what the child thinks. It's a tool for them, or even a statement that they can just do what they want with British working class girls. So
And sadly, our judges don't want to push back
No.
and believe the nonsense. So, and we've seen that, yeah, across Europe, but especially in the UK. Let's finish off with a completely different video clip. You mentioned Nigel Farage and reform. Here's what happened if you go to a reform event and you wear your Free Tommy t-shirt.
So, I'm here at the Reform UK meeting at the racecourse in Doncaster, and I've been refused entry. Refused entry because of my t-shirt that says Free Tommy Robinson. This is the so-called patriotic alternative party for the people. Well, I've been refused entry for supporting a patriot who's in solitary confinement. Absolute madness.
Maybe we need hundreds of people with free Tommy Robinson T-shirts outside the next Reform event.
Maybe we should start that. Yeah, but that's insane too. That's hypocrisy right there. Like, you don't have to like Tommy. We all know that Nigel can't stand Tommy. Yeah, he can have his reasons. We don't have to understand them, but to be honest, and he has to really to be honest on that, a lot of Reform voters are Tommy supporters.
Yeah.
And he would, or the party, like he is so proud of that so many people joining every day with his counting posts all over social media. Yeah, but probably 40-50% are Tommy supporters, and they probably don't like to not being allowed into events of their party for Tommy Robinson, who is a patriot and he is a hero. You don't have to like him, but you have to honor what he's doing and what he did. And now he's paying the price for it, for not being a coward, for speaking up, for telling the truth, and not stepping back when the government says, no, you're not allowed to. And those are those things. And then you have establishment Nigel Farage, who says, yeah, we have to change something in the country. Yeah, but maybe then change something with united with the working class people, because you will need them at the next election. And now I don't know how many people already left Reform after this. And this is a freaking T-shirt. Like, he was not yelling "Free Tommy" or something. It was a T-shirt. And Tommy is not just a person. He became a symbol for movement in the UK, for fighting, for patriotism, for standing up against crimes against the British people. And you can't just don't let this symbol attending to your Reform event. That's nonsense. I don't know what the people thought about it, who are they in charge for, but that's just stupid. Like, sorry for saying it, but this is like, it's a T-shirt.
Yeah, but Nigel has a very thin skin and isn't really concerned.
Politician, sorry.
I know. No, but Tommy, the most famous political prisoner in the world, and someone who spent 145 days or so, as we record, in solitary confinement, Nigel doesn't give a damn. So when they come for Nigel, if they ever did, if he was an establishment figure, maybe he would be worried. If you don't speak up for those who maybe you disagree with, I was very concerned of Julian Assange's treatment. I may not agree with all Julian Assange's views, but he should be treated like a human being, as should Tommy. And Nigel isn't interested in that, but many of the Reform voters are. And it'll be interesting to see where it goes with Reform.
Yeah, but you see the same thing with Rupert Lowe right now. Like, he dared to speak up against big Nigel Farage, and now you have something in public, like this whole investigation. Like, those things should be dealt with behind doors. Like, what they are just weakening themselves. Like, they and then the question is, what is the intention behind it? I always think about what is the intention behind it, because if you want to deal with this behind closed doors, the public doesn't know it. It's not about hiding it, but if you have proof of the whole situation, it would be smart, because now this whole civil war in Reform just weakens the whole movement, and everyone is laughing about the people. Hey, you want to run the country, you want to save Britain, you can't even deal your own stuff behind doors, and you make such a big powwow about it. Like, this is crazy, and I don't know if this was intentional, or it's just because someone got stepped on their toes because the person didn't get what they wanted. And obviously it was females, and females doing crazy stuff sometimes, but like, it's just not for the greater good. And coming from a country who saw all those chicken fights in the movement, it's just at one point in history, we have to step back our egos and say, what is the cause? The cause is right now to not lose your country. And that should be the main motivation, and then step back with the ego. You can have ego later, but right now we all have to stick together, and the main motivation, the main goal should be keeping the children safe, getting Tommy back out of prison, hopefully mentally and physically healthy enough, and then talk about again when he's out what the plans are. But right now, Britain has much more bigger problems than those situations, and then kicking someone out for a t-shirt, like, this is pure hypocrisy and arrogance, and I don't understand why they have it, because they are not in power right now. They still need the people to get them in there. So maybe they should have a little bit more courtesy about this, and be a little bit more humble and say, hey, I maybe don't like your t-shirt, and maybe you can close it up a little bit, or don't yell into speeches, free Tommy, but let him in, let him join. He's a member, like, he
Yep.
paid membership. This is the other point. Like, he's a member who paid membership, so he should have access to it.
If only Nigel listened to his members, but that's a whole other conversation we'll not get into. Vicky, thanks so much for joining us. I've loved your reporting recently from CPAC and everywhere else, and it's great to have you on and giving us your thoughts. So thank you today for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
And let me just leave the viewers with one from your Twitter feed, and people can see some of the things they will find. That is a meme. That's too permanent, you'll regret it. A tattoo parlor and pulling the child into gender affirming clinic. And that gives an idea of where Vicky sits, if you don't already know, after her joining us. But thank you, Vicky, for joining us. And people can follow you there on your X handle. So thanks once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you.